politics of my state.
Many moons ago, I had a lot of broken glasses, saw a lot of laughing faces. My body hadn't soul. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. I found myself and find no glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens, where we explore the female characters in sci-fi TV shows, movies, books, gaming, art, and anywhere female characters are depicted. If you are new to our channel, we welcome you and we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell. We would really appreciate it. It will really help our channel grow. If you are interested in supporting our channel, our merch store is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Take a look at some of our merch. I am your host, Nita. And unfortunately, Sarah will not be joining us tonight, and Tiffany might come in a little later tonight. But keep good thoughts for Sarah's daughter as she's not feeling well tonight. But we do have a very special guest tonight, Joseph the Platypus. How are you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to chit chat with you.
Awesome. You are an honorary sci-fi queen tonight.
Happy to be one.
And now tonight we're going to be talking about the very popular sci-fi Amazon Prime original series, The Fallout. To give you guys sort of a bit of a context of this show, it's a post-nuclear war dystopian world. The question of what would have happened to humanity if we would have had a nuclear war and only a few select elites get to live in a bunker, what would happen? This show explores that, and this show answers those questions for us. So we're going to hop right in a few minutes, but I first want to know, how are you doing, Joseph? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. Keeping busy. As you know, I have a podcast with a couple of other people as well. Vanished Coffee and Marty. So we've been getting our feet stable on that. But outside of that, just crazy work hours and existential dread. But everything else is good.
Dread. Well, we're going to be talking about the podcast a little later today, a little later on in the show. So, guys, keep your ears open for that information because they have a wonderful new podcast and we need to go over there, support them, and subscribe to their channel. But we're going to get right into the show tonight, The Fallout. We're going to talk about the show itself and some of the characters. So let's start, before we go into the characters, let's start talking about the actual show itself. So Joseph, talk to me about your thoughts on this show and what it's saying.
So this show is amazing. As some people will know, I'm not sure that everybody knows. Fallout's based on a series of video games, very popular video games that I have not played a lot of. I will be honest. My brother is a huge fan, has played the games over and over and over again. So I walked into watching this show with not as much knowledge as a lot of the other people, even within my household. Just to see what their experience and see what their reactions were, because I felt like it was important for me to come in this completely clueless about the games, and see if the show is as enjoyable for me as it was for my brother. And I'll be honest, we both loved the show. It is not a recreation of any particular game, but it's set in the same universe and uses generally the same tone and caricatures that the games do. So this is something that can fit right alongside the games as far as plot.
Yes.
And not take away from what's already been done. So it's not like a remake or a reinterpretation. And I will be honest, it was a very powerful show. It was hilarious and exciting. Um, and it's got kind of a goofy tone to it as well. Um, but I loved seeing the reaction from actually both my brothers who have played the game, and just talking to other friends who were bigger into the game, because they absolutely had the same amount of joy. And because it's not a remake of what's already been there, they were discovering a whole bunch of things throughout the show that was new for them, even though, obviously overall plot and stuff is going to be tied to the game series. So they had
Exactly.
some
Yes.
knowledge of things that I didn't, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I never played the game either. And I found out that it was part of a video game after I started watching it. And you really don't need to play the video game, although I encourage you, if you're a gamer, to definitely check out the game. But if you're not a gamer and you're still interested in the show, it's definitely something that can be watched without knowing anything about the game. One of the things that I found interesting is that there was a time in this country, maybe 50, 60 years ago, which is really not that far, historically speaking, that people were building actual bunkers in their in their land, on their land, because of the threat of nuclear war. This show kind of takes it to the next level, where
Mm,
corporation has built these bunkers, a number of these bunkers, and a select elite of people, plus those with money, get to go there in case of a nuclear war, which ends up actually happening in this show. The problem is, what happens to all the people that are left behind?
mhm,
What happens to the people who didn't get into the bunkers, who don't have the fresh water and the food and this, somewhat of a semblance of an education and normal life, how they survived? And it really shows the resilience of humanity, because I think that we forget our own history. We have survived, ice storms. We have survived war and blizzards and all sorts of tragic natural and unnatural disasters, man-made and you know made by the gods, disasters. So it's important to know that it really shows the show the willingness to survive, um, and some of the sci-fi side effects of surviving nuclear war, which we're going to get into right now, because this first character, which you meet in the very beginning of the show, I absolutely love him. Okay, this guy right here, Cooper Howard, played by Walton Goggins. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. You see how his face is all mutated. It's supposed to reflect what happened to him, as a side effect of being exposed to the nuclear explosion that was around him, and has mutated some people. I think that he's the only one that I technically saw in the show. Do you remember them introducing any other mutated characters?
so during the last couple of episodes, there is one character who's like a side character. I can't remember his name, that gets injected with something, and he
Yes.
turns into, I believe they call them ghouls in the Fallout universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not like
Yes.
zombies.
No, it's like
So
a ghoul.
yeah, so this one person turns into a ghoul. He very like he ends up getting hurt and then healing really quick, and so he thinks he's superhuman, and then he realizes, oh no, I'm a ghoul. I'm just like Cooper. So it is fascinating, and that is um kind of cool. I think the science behind
Although
it.
this is really, I think this is what I like to call the sci-fi side
Mhm.
effects of nuclear war, because the reality is that if we were in a nuclear war, humanity wouldn't survive unless they were protected in bunkers. that were isolated from nuclear war, which with nuclear radiation. And my question is, can you build a bunker that can keep you from radiation and still provide you with water and soil for food? Um, I don't know. I don't know how we would survive an actual nuclear war. What do you think?
I will say that I think we could, and I only say this because Chernobyl, right? So Chernobyl
That's
melted
true.
down in the 80s or 90s, can't remember exactly when. And
The
the entire
80s.
yeah, the entire area around that was like irradiated, everything died off. But what I have read about, right, is that wildlife has returned and they've been they've of course
But
had lots of like
people
birth
can't.
defects.
But people can't, right?
There are some people who live fairly close to it because they haven't had a chance. Now, cancer rates are higher, but what has happened, it's going to take generations, but animals can adapt to certain things. And if you're just within the periphery and getting low doses, as long as you're able to reproduce,
That's true.
some
Humanity
surviving,
survives.
that's
And
the whole beauty of it.
I think nature finds a way.
It does.
There are some animals that, when surrounded by same sex, will change in
Yep.
order to reproduce. And it's a natural occurring. I think amphibians can do that.
Some
And I
birds can
think
too.
nature, yeah, nature finds a way.
Yeah.
You know, his character is an amazing character. He was actually supposed to be a part of the bunker. If you see the first episode, he was supposed to be a part of the bunker, and somehow his wife and him and his daughter don't make it in, but they're not saying why. They haven't given us that detail of the backstory, which I'm hoping that they do when season 2 comes, because that would be an amazing uh little bit of a backstory,
Yeah.
um and I think that that will be incredible to see. What do you think about this character? I want to put a Van's comment. She's awesome. Hey girl, it says life finds a way. Yes, life finds a way to survive. You ever heard of the expression, necessity is the mother of invention? There's a reason why people say that. So, Joseph, tell me about your thoughts when you first saw the introduction of this character.
Honestly, um I was excited, um, just from hearing a little bit of the chatter from my brothers, right? And then kind of seeing what really got to me was like the cheesy cowboy, like original like
Yes.
side of it. And then realizing that in the future he's something totally different, and just being excited for the evolution of that character. Um, again, like you said, life finds a way. Favorite quote ever from Jurassic Park, right? Like just
Yes.
Um, it's true, like
Yeah.
dinosaurs found a way, Cooper found a way to survive.
Yeah.
And I
And one of the things I like about this character is that when you meet him, he's got this cowboy persona because he's an actor who plays
Mhm.
cowboys, and he's doing, like, little birthday parties, trying to survive. But he takes on this persona in this new reality.
Yeah, he does. Well,
Mhm.
and it's it's the irony, right? Because like he doesn't have a choice. Everything is
Mhm.
gone. It's not like he can be an actor
Yeah.
anymore, so he just uses what he knows, which is this, very kind of cartoonish version of being a cowboy, but he really leans into it. And I don't know that they say how many years it has been from the attack to the start of the show. I think it's a couple 100 years. It's
Yes, it
something,
is.
yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's just wild to kind of see that. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and I'm not sure if we're giving spoilers or not. I mean, the show's been out for a while, so I'm gonna
Exactly.
say it.
I think it's spoiler free, but if you haven't watched it, close your ears. He's about to spoil it.
Like when he's dug up and he comes out and he is just this absolute
Hot
badass
mess.
character. I mean, hot mess, but
Yes.
he's also like the
He's
epitome of
awesome at
a
the same time.
yeah, he's the epitome of this like Western kind of villain. I'm
Yes.
like, oh yeah, I love this character.
Yep. But here's my question. And is he a villain or is he a hero? Or is he a product of his environment and he's
And
just trying to survive?
I mean, to be honest, yes to all of them and no to all of them because it depends on who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? He is
Yeah.
definitely a product of his environment and what happened. He knows
Yeah.
more about the root cause of what happened, as we
Than
find out later in the
anyone.
than anybody else. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's already jaded because of this. Um, but he does have like a code of honor.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the code of honor I would pick, but he definitely has a code of honor, and he sticks to
Yeah.
it.
And I think that the pain of whatever happened, and I'll say whatever because we really don't know what happened to his wife and child because they never really say. For all we know, maybe they made it. I don't think that the child necessarily did because she was with him when it happened.
Yeah,
Maybe the mom made it. Um, but he lost everything. This character that we see in season one is experienced the loss of everything, his life as he knows it, his family, his appearance. He's a good
everything.
looking man and now looks terrifying. He's scary,
Yeah, yep,
and was buried for how many years? Like hundreds,
yeah.
and,
He
and was
was
still alive.
yeah, and that's the part of it. Like, how would like if you came out after being buried? I mean, even just a year, right? But like decades or centuries in this case,
Yes.
I'd be pretty grumpy
I
too.
I would be messed up in the head. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't be functioning very
yeah,
well. I don't think that I can think logically or reasonably if I were him. And I think that he's functioning as well as he can. And given the experience he's just arisen from.
yeah. Agreed.
But then we have this young lady,
Oh yeah.
Lucy, played by Ella Purnell. Her character was someone born and raised in Bunker 33. Talk to me about her character and about about her mindset as a bunker dweller versus what happens when she leaves.
She was very much okay. So growing up in the bunker, her only understanding of the world is I need to survive and I need to
Hmm.
reproduce so that when we leave the bunkers, humanity can survive. So
Yeah,
she believed that when she left the bunker, she would walk into a world where either there was nobody or it would be
yeah,
so devastated that they would have to bring civilization back.
yeah,
So she was very much a product of her environment. I
yeah,
think it's amazing because her father was the leader of the bunker, so she had like leadership examples. But what happens to this character throughout the series is amazing. She
yeah.
turned out to be my favorite character of the show. Absolutely.
She is amazing. First of all, she's fierce.
Yeah.
You think she's this little delicate flower, but she
No.
could throw down with the best of them. Okay, I mean, her fighting skills are amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's very tragic that there she is. She gets married with someone from Bunker 32. I think right. She's
I think so.
33. He's from 32, and they're not in love. They don't
Nope.
know each other. This is strictly a matter, as you said, of reproduction. And he's supposed to be genetically,
Compatible.
compatible.
Right.
And what, 10 minutes after they're done with their personal involvement and consummating the marriage, he tries to murder her? Like,
Yeah.
really?
It's
That is a shock. I thought he was going to kill her. Like, I didn't know she was a main character to survive. Um, but she fought back with such vigor
Yeah.
and with
Yeah.
such power, and she was skillful. She was a pretty amazing. Um, and she's the only one who wants to rescue her dad from the outside people, and she leaves the safety of the only thing she's ever known, which are these bunkers have food, these bunkers have water, comfort, um, to go out into a world that she doesn't know how exposed to radiation she's going to be, what the reaction is going to be. She doesn't know.
Yeah. Super brave.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
bravest, I think the bravest character in the show because
absolutely.
she's just been like her entire home was just decimated. Her father kidnapped. Everything that she knew, she walked away from willingly to
Hmm.
try and save her dad, who she loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like
Her own
just
brother wouldn't
amazing.
go with her. Her
Yeah.
own brother would not go with her. He's like, oh no, I can't go. They were raised to fear the outside. The world isn't ready for us to walk out there. It needs to be,
Yeah.
you know, cleansed of all this radiation and pollution, which they're not necessarily wrong. As you mentioned Chernobyl before, it has taken over 50 years for that to clear up enough where wildlife can go in.
Yeah.
People can't
Exactly.
still go in, but I mean, radiation is a serious, serious thing that truly has devastating effects,
Yeah.
um, yet wonderful effects, because radiation is what's used to fight cancer, and the
Yeah.
side effects are horrible, but if you beat it, the end result is wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a double-edged sword in science, but she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. It's not like they have maps. The world doesn't look the same anymore.
Right.
So
She's
having
just
an old school map means nothing.
yeah. She's just
Yeah,
walking into the unknown, which I loved.
I
Everything about her
loved it.
discovery process.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we have this character, which is her dad, um, Ausher Hank, played by Kyle McLachlan. I hope I'm saying his name right.
McLachlan, I think.
McLachlan, thank you. I love this actor. I've seen him before, um, and he's always does such a wonderful job
Yeah.
at every
Great
part
actor.
that he does. He's a great, phenomenal actor. Um, did you trust him when he first showed his face on on the show?
So when I first saw him, he was so nice and so perfect. I was like, nope, this guy's a villain. I immediately know like it like he was like too nice red flag. You know what I mean? Like when somebody's
Yes,
that fake nice, I'm like, no, let's see what this guy's about. Um,
absolutely.
like he, absolutely cared for his daughter and his son.
I
Like
think so. I
obviously,
think he was genuine to a
yeah,
point. I think that he had secrets, and which are revealed later, that he did
right,
know a lot more about what was going on outside,
right,
um, but kept them because he felt it was the right thing to do. I don't think that's necessarily makes you a villain, but that may not make you the best judge of character, what's right and wrong.
yeah,
But yeah, he was a little too goofy for me. I was like, is he playing a villain?
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is, anytime I run into a character and they're like too perfect, I'm like, no, no, there's
Mhm.
something wrong.
Yes.
Um,
Can we talk about the level of diversity in this show?
I mean, this show has a lot of diversity. I
Wow. Yes.
I
The
really did
diversity is
like it.
amazing. I loved it. Considering the time frame in our history that these bunkers supposedly were created, and the diversity was on point.
Yeah,
And I really like that. I truly did.
yeah,
And I thought it was amazing. It because they had people of all nationalities, colors, skins, and also tall people, short people, heavy people. This most shows they only show one kind of type.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they'll find that type and say, okay, let's get a, African American and a brown person and a, a white person and an Asian person that all look like this type
Yeah.
and never represent anyone else. And I love the fact that that is not what happened here. There's a lot of representation here, and I really thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, this is why it's one of my favorite shows.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a fantastic show. But let's talk about this guy. Oh,
Um,
Monty, played by Cameron Kalperthwati. I do not know if I said that right either. I am so sorry, Cameron, if I messed up your name. But Monty, what a character.
yeah.
You thought he was this sweet, nice guy when you first see him, or at least that's the image that they're trying to portray. But he did seem a little bit awkward.
Everything about like him and his party
It was
was
awkward, wasn't
just
it?
a little different, like not quite right.
Hmm. Yes. Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
especially especially considering how sheltered we see Lucy and the others, right? Like,
Yes. Like when they asked him his sperm count, I was like, why couldn't he answer that? Because that would have been a red flag. Because that's a thing with them. That's an important thing for them. Because if it's not high enough, then you can't reproduce. You can't be a part of that. And their whole existence is about reproduction.
yeah,
Um, and I thought it was odd that no one thought to check on his radiation levels at that point. Um, and they all seemed very odd, like they didn't know how to socialize. And the thing with the bunker people is they're social people. They're
hmm,
very social,
they
you
have to
know.
be. They have to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. So when you first saw his character in particular, what gave you what did he do or not do that made you think this is shady?
Honestly, it was just he seemed so standoffish compared to everybody else in Bunker 33. And
Yes.
he didn't I can't remember the exact dialogue, but there was some science talk and he seemed to like glaze over. And by the way, amazing portrayal by the actor. Because it's just the subtle like facial expressions um that you could overlook, but because I knew this is a post-apocalyptic show, I was like, okay, let me figure out like there's something going on here. And I think what's funny is like I watched the first couple of episodes with like my brothers and even my mom. And my mom had no clue about anything, right? And she sees this character, and the first thing out of her mouth is like, he's not from down there.
Oh, she is on point.
And I'm just like, yeah, she picked up in like the cues, right? And of course it's because this guy's a great
Absolutely.
actor. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, there's something off. Definitely something off.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. He definitely did not seem to fit in,
yeah, yeah,
and they all seem to have that lack of social skills because in the world they live in, they don't need to be social. They need to be tough. They need to stay on their own. They need to, stick to the group that they know, no outsider kind of mentality. It's a real post apocalyptic kind of mentality. If you take a look at other shows that are post apocalyptic in nature, there's always that stick to your own group kind of
yeah,
mentality because
yeah,
the real danger wasn't the radiation, it's the people left behind and the violence and the freedom for violence that they would exude onto others.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that kind of I picked up on after it was revealed, right, was like the facial hair and like the length of the hair. Like everybody else in the
Yes.
bunker was like this 1960s version of like prim and proper,
Yes.
and these guys come in and it's like you don't quite like that's another like visual cue from the show. They don't quite fit in because
They all looked a little dirty. When I
yeah,
saw them, I felt bad thinking that at first because I'm like, but I was like, yeah, they seem a little dirty, but maybe they were working.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I didn't want to judge it based on that. But that is definitely a red flag.
Probably.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was very
And
well
then,
done.
yeah, very well done. Those little subtle nuances that really created that imagery of these guys are from the outside and these guys are from the bunkers. That really was impressive.
Yeah. It's like you see this guy and his party, and you're like, they need manicures and pedicures. Like, there's something wrong with them. They're not clean
Yes.
enough.
Yes. Yes. Now, then we have her, the leader of the pack, Lee Moldovar, played by Sarita Chowdhury. These
Chaudhary, I
names
think.
are
Yeah.
really getting me tongue twisted here. She is a beautiful actress, so amazing. And even she, when she walked into Bunker 33, seemed to be off. And I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting that the leader of 33 didn't pick up on it. What do you think about that? That he saw her and he didn't pick up on it, now knowing what we know about him.
Honestly, I think this is just all part of like the grand conspiracy that we find out about throughout the show, right? Like there has to be conflict, and those who survive are stronger,
Hmm.
and also more dependent upon the technology that they have for safety, right? So it's like this way of like keeping power and control, and then also in like the sense of like survival of the fittest, right? So I kind of think like he didn't. I don't think he expected things to go as far as they did, but I think he definitely picked up on it and just didn't mention it, which is
Really?
kind of messed up to think of. But yeah, I think so.
I didn't get that from him. I got that he was fooled like everyone else, which I thought was interesting because he's no stranger to the outside people.
He's
And he should
not.
have picked up on it. But, maybe you're right. Maybe he did pick up on it, but felt that maybe saying something would endanger his daughter's chances of getting someone, which it really gives you an idea and a insight on how their brain works. It's like it's so important to reproduce that you would overlook these red
Maybe,
flags.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, everything about those bunkers is a red flag. You find out later, so it's like,
Yeah. Everything is a red flag in those bunkers. I mean, the things that they were doing in the other bunkers, it's like, really?
yeah.
That's what you spent your time with? Hmm.
And here's one of the things. Like, so I was completely naive to the bunker system because I didn't play the games.
Mhm.
Both my brothers were like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna get good." I'm like, "What do you know?" So apparently, people who played the games know the lore super well, and they're like, "Yeah, nothing good ever happens with the bunkers." Like, so that's the part of it. That's
Mm.
like the Easter egg for them, where they knew to anticipate something, but they didn't know what. They just knew
Exactly.
to anticipate.
Exactly. But I mean, the Hug group was vicious.
Oh,
They murdered all of 33, and then most of 33, and they murdered all of 32, and
yeah,
they did it with joy.
yeah.
I mean, that
They
kind
were
of tells
angry.
you the mindset that they were in, the anger, and that they didn't get to grow up in these bunkers, and they're suffering out there, and
Yep.
you locked yourself in here and not let anyone in,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what they did. Absolutely. Um, what do you think of Maximus, played by Aaron Moten? I loved his character, but I can't figure him out completely. Talk to me about what your thoughts are on him.
So he definitely is a product of his times, right? Like he grew up on the outside. He grew up believing one thing,
Hmm.
and the knights that he tried to join um are a very toxic organization.
Yes.
They're like the self-proclaimed saviors of society, but they
Yeah, I
are a
didn't really
cult.
understand. Like, there's no actual government, so or military. How are you so organized and in
So
control?
one of the things that we didn't get from the show,
Hmm.
what you get from the game is there were attempts at governments and these factions try to maintain power. So even though there's not a government, because they have access to this armor, this group of people believes that they should be in charge. Not that they actually are.
They just
So
make themselves in charge.
yeah, so they just they take power and you kind of see like this fanatical brainwashing they do to the kids so they
Yeah,
grow
they
up in this
sure do.
system. Yeah, it is. So I think like fundamentally I think Maximus wants to be a good person. Like he
I think so.
believes in this ideal that doesn't really exist. He
Hmm.
believes in this organization that he later finds out is much different and much more
Yeah,
dangerous than he believed.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's terrible. I think that, making and then making him the squire of this guy in a armored suit. Um, it
Yeah,
didn't even that it's a suit to intimidate people.
yeah, yeah,
That's what it is, and take control.
yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I think that he wanted to believe so much in this organization that he was blinded by the reality of it. Um, and I think that I love the towards the end when he's in the bunker and he's eating and he's like, I'm not leaving,
Yeah,
because he's got all this delicious food he's never tasted before, and all of these amenities and the shower and all of the things that he was missing in his life are now being presented to him. But there's all this ulterior motive and all this evil and bad, yucky stuff going on that no one knows about.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's so. This is one of the things that makes this show so powerful, right? Is like
Absolutely.
it's a display of if you had the power to enforce your will, you also
Yeah.
have the power to make things better for people. How
Hmm.
are you going to use that power, right? And you kind of see like
Yeah.
the worst side of society, like everything from,
Absolutely. And that
yeah,
organization, being that they were outside, could have organized better, could have created a better world, could have, helped people rebuild.
yep. But you kind
But
of see the same thing
they
in
weren't
Vault-Tec.
about that. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see that all these
Yeah.
organizations that are portrayed in the show,
Yeah.
they're all kind of horrible.
Yes, because the people who created the bunkers
Hmm.
really had the ability to create even more bunkers than they did and really save, if not all humanity, most of humanity. But they were very much about selective um, choices.
Did you catch
Yeah,
like I think it was the last episode, they actually mentioned, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear the spoiler,
close your
close your
ears.
ears now. They initiated the nuclear war initially because of their profit
Absolutely,
margins.
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's like, yes, they could have saved more people, but they
Hmm.
caused the problem to begin with.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think that just like all sci-fi, it has this commentary on life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's important that we talk about that commentary that I think it's making. I think it's because I grew up in the 80s, okay? The threat of nuclear war was still hanging in the 80s.
Mhm.
It got kind of curtained away when
Yep.
the AIDS epidemic exploded and kind of took over the media. Um, but it was there. And I think that we've forgotten that it's still there because those nuclear warheads still exist.
And they're still pointing at us.
They're still pointed at us. We are pointing at them. We love to tell other countries, bring down your nuclear warheads, but you've got them too. You can't tell someone not to do something you are doing. It's just not. It's never going to happen. And that is one of the biggest problems is the level of distrust that we as a world have with one another, that we
Mhm.
have to point horrible, massive, destructive weapons on each other. And look at what happens when someone in power sets them off. and look at what happens to the world that we know. And I think, true to sci-fi, I think it definitely gives that message. I mean, that's what I got from it. What did you feel that you got as far as the social message?
A lot actually, and very much the same as you. First and foremost, it's like the othering of people, right? Because all of this is taking place within like 100 miles of each other, right? And you've got these factions already, like within 200 years, fighting and trying to hurt each other. So it's like just the need to other others to maintain power. Like, so we talk about these bad organizations, and it's like, do you want to be part of a group of people that inspires or that
Exactly.
focuses on fear? And that is a
Yeah.
huge part of this. Is like the worst of the organizations work off of fear.
Yeah.
The best that we've seen that didn't do well are actually trying to be hopeful and doing the things for society to help each other.
Yeah.
So that's like
So,
one of the
yeah,
big things.
absolutely. What are you looking forward to season two?
Honestly, I want to see more about like what happened in that 200-year period. I want to
Yes.
know more about the other organizations. We find out that there was like they did build a city post this whole apocalypse. They started to rebuild a city, and then that was destroyed. And I want to know like what happened there. Is there like are there other cities? Are there
Yeah.
like how did the rest of the world fare? Like we've seen like just the Americans West.
Yeah, we're
What's the
only
rest of the
seeing a
world?
small portion of the world
Yeah.
in these. Yeah.
So I
I
want to
mean,
see more of that.
it's yeah, I can't wait for season two.
I want to
Absolutely.
see
It's
more
going to
Lucy.
I want to see more Lucy kicking butt,
Yes.
fighting. I want to see her in conflict
Mhm.
with her father because
Yeah.
I want her to confront all of the lies, all of the secrets. I want more between them, like more,
Mhm.
and I want her and to develop more of a relationship um with um trying to get the actor Maximus,
Maximus. Yeah.
because I think that they definitely would do well together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Some
I
sort of a
definitely want
team
to see
up,
that.
like
Yes,
whatever it
and I
is,
want to
whatever.
see the backstory of what happened to his wife, and his child. How did she
Yeah.
die? Is she dead? What happened? Because she was a part of this. She was supposed to be in the bunker, so they
Yeah.
had a spot, but yet he didn't get in. And that's something that I want to know more about, and I hope we get all of those answers when it comes back. And I'm sure Tiffany, the nerd goddess, she will let us know uh when that season two is going to come up. Absolutely. But we're going to go now to a quick little commercial break, and we'll
Okay.
be right back. All right, now we're going to come back and we're going to go into our next segment, which is the sci-fi book recommendation. Oh, I have been looking forward to this segment all week long. If you were here for my review of the first book uh, of the Parallax Trilogy, you know that I am a super fan and I absolutely am loving it. It is one of those books you just can't put down. Adaptation is book two of the Parallax Trilogy, written by Matt Contant and Lauren Cipollo. And let me tell you, they do not disappoint. Okay, Adaptation is the second book of the Parallax Trilogy. It continues with its journey through space with amazing character development. And the story that continues from book one seems seamlessly. Like it just kind of flows. And I love that writing style because it doesn't make you feel like there's a gap between books. And I read in between these books because I have other books and comics that I do recommendation. And this just, I was able to pick this second book up and it just easily go into it. Okay, now this book aims to continue the story it began in book one. Uh, Book one had been accomplished. Also, it continues to provide vivid descriptions about life in space, alien life, family drama, even mysteries that are being solved. The writers provide you with a vivid adventure through space, a realistic look at humanity's future, and the results of technological advancement. This to me is very important because they really do have this real vivid kind of realistic uh, creation of what humanity is in the future. I am a huge Star Trek fan, but I don't ever see us ever being in a utopia. I hope we one day will be, but I just can't see humanity being in a utopia. I think that commerce and um, money exchange, all of these things, it really will take over. And I feel like these books really do explore a realistic possible future for humanity while still traveling through space and encountering alien life and alien planets. This was so much fun to read that I really had a hard time putting it down. And I can't say this enough. Okay, I've said it before. I will say it again. Amazon Prime, Netflix, you need to make this into a series. This will be an amazing series. If you like, um, uh, I forgot the name now. I absolutely a big fan. Did Give me a second. I went blank. But this will be an amazing television series. I can see this having five easy five seasons. This is such a good book. And book one is so good. Sometimes the first book tends to be a little slow because it's character introducing. The book was not slow. It was super fun. Yes, thank you, Joseph. The Expanse. If you like The Expanse, like I love The Expanse. I'm sorry, Expanse, please forgive me. I just, had old lady brain for a minute. If you like The Expanse, you're gonna love these books. Okay, and this would probably do better even than The Expanse. This is how good this book is. I'm definitely gonna be reading book three, and I'm definitely gonna be bringing it in about maybe a month, because I do have other books that I want to present in between. But I'm definitely going to give a review of book three and probably cry because then it's over, and I don't want it to be over. But this book was a delight to read. It was so enjoyable. It was just so intriguing. It kind of pulls you in, you know. It was absolutely amazing. And actually, their books, I got them off of Amazon. They're also on Audibles. They're great, fantastic books. I highly recommend this book. Uh, Absolutely. We're gonna move on quickly to our next segment. One of my favorite segment, podcast recommendation. All right, we are going to go into podcast recommendation. This podcast, Eye on Sci-Fi podcast, is a great podcast. It gives an awesome cover of indie sci-fi short films, web series, and other related sci fi media. They interview creators and behind the scene people as well. Now, the next podcast recommendation, Joseph, I'm going to let you let us know what's that about. Talk to me about another freaking podcast because that's your podcast. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so our podcast is basically three friends talking about topics throughout sci-fi, fantasy, and science in general. So we've already kind of listed out a bunch of topics we want to talk about. Our next episode is going to be about duos. So like characters who are duos who are just amazing throughout sci-fi, what makes them amazing. We're Some upcoming topics will be like real life science inspired by sci-fi.
Ooh.
We're both Trek fans, so we understand how deep we can go on our love on Trek.
Absolutely.
But this is just us kind of info dumping, just cool things about our favorite fandoms and how it relates to the world in general. And both Vanished Coffee and Marty are just absolutely amazing co hosts. They have such energy. And to be honest, the amount that we think alike but also differ is amazing. So, it's just a very natural fluid thing. It's just fun. If you just want to listen to our deep dives into like what's the worst universe to live in, or what's our the funnest universe to live in, um, who would be a great captain thrown into the place of Janeway.
Yes,
So
I
let's
loved that one. Was so much fun, guys. You have to go listen to it. Super fun to listen.
Yep. So
Yes.
it's we just deep dive, and our next episode's probably next week. I have to validate next this Saturday with our co-hosts, but yep, we try to do it every 2 weeks ish.
Okay. And it's
Yep.
on Saturday mornings, right?
It's typically Saturday mornings about 8 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
But again, it will be on YouTube and then off the podcast platforms.
Excellent, guys. Check them out. Subscribe. They're new. They need our support. And as you know, Sci-Fi Queens love to support. So definitely give them some love. Show them some love. Watch their videos. They're super fun. And they just really have some interesting topics. We also have here Voices in Hyperspace. I found this one. It is absolutely fantastic. They talk about all things science fiction, and it is a lot of fun to listen to them. So definitely give them a listen. They're a fairly new podcast, but they're growing as well, and I want to show them some love. You're gonna have such a good time with Voices in Hyperspace, definitely. But so I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything in before we call it a night tonight. If there's anything you want to plug aside from the podcast, let us know.
Yeah. Um, the podcast is great. Please do that. I'm going to plug something not sci-fi related and just say,
Go right ahead.
go make sure you go register to vote. Don't care who
Yes,
you vote for.
please.
Register to vote. November is coming
Absolutely.
soon. Local elections matter more than national elections to most people.
Yeah.
Please see what's there. Please get out and vote.
Yes, and our next episode will be August. I put the wrong date there. I was on July for a while. It's August 23rd, not July. My apologies. August 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be talking about Planet of the Apes, the latest movie. As you guys know, I am a huge Planet of the Apes fan. I have watched every movie in the TV show. Of course, I watched the TV show on rerun because I'm not that old, but I did watch it. And it's going to be so much fun. Um, and Joseph, you are always welcome here, and all of Frackin' Pack and other Frackin' Podcasts is welcome here as well. Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts on the fallout. And when season 2 comes, we're going to have you back for season 2 for
Yeah,
sure.
I can't wait. And thank you for having me on. This has been a joy.
Oh, wonderful. So thank you guys for joining us, and you have a good night, and don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified when new videos come up. Thank you for watching our show.